What's up? Well, it's a beautiful day on the island of Lanai. We had an unusual, we don't get them very often, thunderstorm last night. Got some good rain. And hello, Dennis Wainwright. Good afternoon. Hello, Penny. Got my mom on TV. Yasmin, aloha. Did you get some rain over there? Huh? Morning, Colleen. Thank you for joining us. Hey, Jody. Christina, thank you for joining. Look, I'm getting lots of hearts, getting lots of love, and I haven't even started yet. Gil Graham, what's up? Well, it's a beautiful day. Kimmy and I are getting ready to head out on like 50 country, 50 city, 50 day, 50-year-old tour. We're leaving Thursday for New York City for her birthday, and then we're going to Zurich for Valentine's Day, and then we're going to surf camp in the Maldives for a week. That's somewhere over in the Indian Ocean. And then we're going to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia to speak for a few days, and then we're going to Perth, Australia, and Melbourne and Brisbane to speak and hang out. And then we're going to New Zealand, I don't even know, Auckland, New Zealand, we're going there, and then we're going to Tokyo, and then we're coming home, thank God. Long trip, but lots of fun. We're celebrating Kimmy's 50th birthday, and if you haven't checked out her blog, go see her Facebook page, and you can follow her along every day, because she's going to be posting about our trip, which would be super fun. Today, I'm going to be talking about motivation, and of course, I'm going to base a lot of that on this book. If you haven't read it, worth the read, perhaps. Might come as a surprise to you how long ago I wrote Mach 2, 1995. So, gosh, I don't know, what is that? That's like 22 years ago. I wrote that book, and while we're waiting for people to come on, I'm going to tell you a funny story about persistence. So I read this book a long time ago, How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success by Frank Bettger. This is a book I read 40 years ago. It's a great book. Nobody reads it anymore. It's like, you know, it was like, I don't know, a 1960s and 70s book. And I think Frank Bettger was an insurance salesman. And so he told this great story about persistence, and that he was calling on this client. He was trying to sell him, you know, like all kinds of life insurance. Like he was going to try to set the record and sell this guy $1 million policy or something. And everyone at the life insurance company said, you know, we've been trying to sell him for decades. Nobody can even get an appointment with him. And if you do get an appointment, he's never going to buy. And so this brand new guy, Frank Bettger, you know, he went to sell this guy insurance. And the way he went about doing it was he went to the office, went to the receptionist, and introduced himself and said, I'd like an appointment to sell your boss life insurance. And of course she said, no, he's not available. And so he went back, I don't know, the next day, or maybe he went every Monday, I don't know. But he just kept going back for years without an appointment. And then one day Frank got sick. And he had built such a relationship with the receptionist that when Frank didn't show up at his regularly habitual day and time, the receptionist had such a relationship with Frank that she actually got worried. She went in and told her boss, hey, Frank, because they'd always talk about, you know, Frank came back again, wanting an appointment to sell your life insurance. They got so concerned together about Frank that they called the corporate headquarters of the life insurance company, and they said, hey, what happened to Frank? You know, he didn't show up today. And they said, well, I don't know, he's in the hospital or he's sick or something. And so, of course, when Frank got better, that just was the opening that he needed, oddly enough, to get in. And according to the story, he sold millions of dollars worth of insurance. Anyway, that's the story that set up the story I'm going to tell you about Mach 2. So, I don't know, 15 years ago or something, I got inspired about what if Oprah read Mach 2? And this is when she was doing her book club thing. And I thought, what if? And why wouldn't she? I mean, you know, other people have read it and liked it. Maybe she'll read it and like it. And then I also had a vision about, wow, who better to start a network marketing company than Oprah Winfrey? I mean, she'd be $1 billion company overnight, and, you know, she's transformational and, you know, all that stuff, just a perfect. So anyway, I sent this book, the old version, and a letter asking her to read it, telling her how grateful I would be if she would read it. And then also, hey, you got to think about maybe starting your own network marketing company, sell skincare or sell makeup or sell whatever. And, you know, you'd be $1 billion brand overnight. You change women's lives kind of like Mary Kay has done. And so anyway, but here's the part of the story. So I sent the book and the letter. FedEx, eventually after about 2 or 3 years, I think we went to priority mail, but a special delivery twice a week. I sent her a book with the letter in it twice a week for 7 years. 7 years. I mean, people in the mailroom would turn over and they'd, you know, somebody new would show up in there and they would say, hey, you know, we're spending a lot of money sending these books out. Do you still want to do that? And my response was always, not only do I still want to send the book out twice a week, don't ever ask me again if I want to stop. And literally, we spent thousands of dollars over that 7 years sending Oprah books. And finally, we heard from Oprah. I was in California at my ranch, and my assistant called me up. She said, "You're not going to believe it." I said, "What?" We heard from Oprah. I said, "Oh, my gosh, let me sit down." All right, read it to me. It was actually a letter. It was on Harpo Productions on the letterhead. And the letter started off, "Please cease and desist." It was from Oprah's legal department. Apparently, there were too many books stacked up somewhere, which I'd actually visioned that. I said, you know, sooner or later, somebody's going to go to Oprah and say, hey, what do you want to do with all these books? There's thousands of them in the closet. And I guess maybe instead of going to Oprah, they went to the legal department. Anyway, that's a little off subject, Mach 2 story, but not why I invited you here tonight, this morning to talk. Here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about internal motivation versus external motivation. I want to talk about the kind of motivation that Mach 2 teaches you how to do. And motivation, in my experience, is everything. You know, it's fantastic to learn how to approach people and how to talk to people and even how to listen to people. And, you know, it's awesome to, you know, learn all the skills that are important. All that stuff is really, really valuable. But if you're not motivated, and I'll talk a little bit about what I mean by that. But if you're not motivated to get the job done, it doesn't matter what your skills are. And skills don't necessarily lead to motivation. They can help motivation. They help give you a story and a vision about what you can do. The better skills you have, the better story you're going to have in your mind about what's possible. But they don't necessarily translate. And you've probably all experienced in whether it's in network marketing or any other business, you know, blind enthusiasm or ignorant bliss, you know, all of that on fire gets the job done. You know, people figure out how it won't work after a while. And people that, you know, are kind of ignorant, they're on fire and they get the job done. Why? Because they're motivated. And motivation is nothing more than a story. It's the story that we tell ourselves about the inevitability of our project, whatever that project is. So, you know, it might be about our relationship, it might be about our business, it might be about something you want to do, it might be about sports, it doesn't matter. Whatever you can envision yourself doing, you have a story about what that looks like. And if the story doesn't have a clear, powerful outcome of you accomplishing what you want to accomplish, you're not going to pull it off. You're going to sabotage yourself. You know, a great example was the Super Bowl this Sunday. Probably the best game I've ever seen on television, football game. And I was rooting for the Eagles because my sense about the Eagles is they were coming from what I'm going to talk about today. They were coming from authenticity, from spirituality. They were coming from the right internal, authentic reasons why they wanted to win. And they had a story about winning even though they were the underdogs. And what was going on the other side with the Pats, as talented and as brilliant and as smart and as successful as the Patriots are, you know, you could kind of get a sense from watching, you know, news shows about and reading about what's been going on with the Patriots. Is there some divisiveness on the Patriots? There's some egos clashing between the coach and the quarterback and, you know, the quarterback's personal trainer, Guerrero, and, you know, kind of politics and drama. And that gets in the way of the purity of accomplishment. And, you know, then another thing that kind of popped in for me, yesterday I was interviewing Judy Oiggins, who's a send-out cards distributor, and something really struck me about Judy, which I love her. She has such a great story. She's been building her network marketing organization for 12 years. But Judy's been doing something that she actually inspired me to do this subject today. I was interviewing her and I was looking at her stats, and Judy has been personally enrolling 1 to 2 people a month, every month for 12 years. And you know, so I asked Judy, I said, Judy, what motivates you to do that? You know, are you doing that to just set an example? Or are you doing that because you think you should? Or are you doing that to win a contest? Or are you doing that to look good? Or what's the motive for staying that consistent month in, month out for 12 years? And Judy spoke so eloquently about the difference between being externally motivated, ego-based motivated, and spiritually motivated, which is the essence of what I want to talk about today. She said, you know, the reason that I continually invite people to look at my opportunity is, she said, I'm a baby boomer. I'm 62. I don't know, Judy's somewhere in there. Maybe she's a baby boomer. And she said, you know what? There's so many baby boomers. There's so many people in their 50s and 60s and maybe even in their early 70s that, you know, they still don't have a solution for how they're going to live their golden years. You know, they didn't save $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 a month for 30 years of their life. They didn't have breaks, perhaps, that had them end up with financial security. And she said, you know what? I keep talking to people because most of the people I talk to are baby boomers. That's her target market. And they haven't figured it out yet. And if they don't figure it out, a lot of them are going to suffer. And in other words, and she said it way more eloquently than I can say it here, but here's what I got from her is that she invites people to look her opportunity every day because she has a love and a passion for contributing to people that just might see it. And of course, most people don't see it. Most people we talk to don't see our products. They don't see the value of our products. Most people we talk about our opportunity to don't see the value for them. But it's just like the starfish story, you know, kid going down the beach and, you know, throwing the starfish back in the ocean, and some cynical adult comes up to him and says, you know, why are you doing that? You know, you can't save all the starfish. And kid picks one up and throws it back in the ocean and says, I just saved him. So it's not about saving everybody. It's just about, you know, people that are ready, people that are interested, people that are open. That's where the passion comes from. So what I want to drill into today is to ask each of you that are pursuing whatever you're pursuing to really dedicate some time and some study into asking yourself, what motivates you? What's the story you tell yourself about why you're doing what you're doing and what the outcome is going to be? And you probably can't see it very well. I don't know if I can't even write very clearly, but I'll tell you what's on the board behind. So I basically got the sheet behind me split into two categories. One is external motivators and one is internal motivators. And here's an example of external motivation, and this is where most people get their juice, where most people get their energy, where most people get their drive to do the work. They get it from things that what we might call ego-based. They get it from things like winning, like they want to win the contest. And you know, the thing about winning most contests is, let's say the contest is 4 months long. Here's the setup when you use your motivation about winning a contest. Let's say the contest is 4 months long, and let's say 10 people are going to win the contest. So for 3 months and 29 days, if you're pursuing motivation around winning a contest, for 3 months and 29 days, you haven't won the contest. So you're in a state of, oh, I don't know if I'm going to win. I want to win. What if I win? What if I lose? All that kind of stuff. Yes, sometimes that can fuel you to get the work done. But what if you don't win? Then what's the conversation that triggers? And what if you win, but at the expense of other people who lose? So competition is a widespread motive for people, but it's not the purest and most powerful motive. It's not the motive like Judy Oiggins has about contributing to people and solving an unlimited problem, an endless problem. Like she can be out there contributing day in and day out. It's not about her. It's not about her winning, and if she wins, she feels good about herself, and if she loses, she doesn't feel good about herself, and if she wins, other people lose. It's not that kind of a setup. People that are motivated by contests and recognition they're at the mercy of the people pulling the strings. They're like a puppet in the play. So if your motivation comes from contests, the question I want to ask you is, who's designing the contests? You know, what if the contest for you doesn't seem fair? What if it doesn't favor you? And the same thing with recognition. You know, when you base your motivation on recognition, like that's the reason you're driving is to hit this rank and hit this rank and earn this much money and, you know, get this kind of recognition on stage. It's a setup to be manipulated by the staff and the people that are actually pulling the strings, like who decides who gets on stage and who decides what kind of accolades are, you know, public and not public, and who writes the social media accolades. You're at the mercy of people that, you know, may not have your best interest at heart. So, you know, here's some other ego-based motivations, trying to prove to people, prove to yourself, prove to your family, prove to other people around you that you can do something, whether it's be successful, win the contest, rank advance, or just matter, proving that you matter. So one of my huge motivations, you know, early in my career is, you know, I just grew up I just didn't believe that I mattered. Like, you know, we won't go into it here, but, you know, that's just a kind of a core belief that I had as a kid is I just didn't really matter. I wasn't cool. I wasn't like the cool kids. You know, I got a buddy of mine, I don't know if he's still on here, but Dennis Wainwright that I grew up with. You know, I've known Dennis since like the 6th grade. And Dennis was one of the cool kids. Like he had cool shoes and he had cool Levi's and, you know, I had cool parents. You know, I loved going over to Dennis's house because his parents were cool. They were nice. They were fun. They fed me. We played out in the back in the pool. But, you know, my parents weren't, you know, they had their own deal going on. They had divorce going on, and there was strife and, you know, anger and yelling. And, you know, it wasn't fun to hang out at my house. And so part of what I just got out of that is I didn't matter. So one of my big motivations getting into network marketing is I just wanted to matter. Like I wanted to get to the rank. I wanted to achieve this. I wanted to achieve that. So I mattered. But you know what? It doesn't solve the problem. So you rank advance, you know, I got all the way to the cover of Success magazine and it didn't change that I mattered or not. That took an entirely different conversation. Dominating, you know, people is another ego-based motive that people have that, you know, just is short-lived. It's manipulative. It drains you of energy and it just doesn't work. And you know, probably the worst one of all, the worst set of all is what we call shoulds. And shoulds are basically motives and values that other people place on us, whether it's our parents or society or our friends or our family, that we should do this. We should make a lot of money or we shouldn't make a lot of money. Maybe our place is not in business, like we should be at home taking care of the house, or maybe we should prove that, you know, I am woman, hear me roar. So you should be out, you know, doing something amazing in business, even though maybe your family stayed home and took care of the home and took care of the kids. So shoulds are really powerful motivators, but they're not near as powerful as the spiritual-based motivators we're going to talk about here in a minute. So one of the things that you could do is just take a look at, what's driving you? What's the story you have? Are you seeking motivation? Are you seeking to prove something? Are you seeking to dominate? Are you seeking to win? Are you seeking material things because you have a conversation that if you have those things, you'll feel good about yourself? Or are you doing the business? Are you pursuing goals, any kind of goal, because somebody else thinks you should or maybe thinks you shouldn't? So that's over on the side of ego-based motives. Now let's talk about the kind of motives that you could dive into and discover from not reading Mach 2, but actually studying it. It's not a book to read. It's not an entertaining book. It is a book to study. The art of vision and self-motivation is an art. And when you master the art, which doesn't take that long, you can master it in 3 or 4 months of just diligent pursuit of it. Most people pick up the book, they read a little bit of it, they put it down, maybe they read the whole thing and they go, oh, great book, but they never really implement what the book invites you to implement. And so that's the art. When you can master the art, then you master your destiny. So here's the kind of motivation that Mach 2 invites you to discover and master. The kind of motivation that no one else can manipulate. Because it's not based on contests. It's not based on recognition. It's not based on whatever other people think you should do. It's all based on what you want to do. Not what even you think you should do, but what you want to do. Like if nobody had an opinion about what you would do with your life and what pursuits you would go after and what niches you would be passionate about, what would you do? Maybe you wouldn't pursue money and wealth. Maybe you wouldn't pursue a new car. Maybe you wouldn't pursue recognition and advancement. What would you pursue? Think of Judy Oiggins. She is pursuing 12 years later, serving people that may end up challenged in their golden years because they're not prepared financially. She's coming from a passion. Nobody can manipulate that. That all comes right from Judy. This is a spiritual, intrinsic, internal motivation. It is, think of it like the furnace inside of you. You through a conversation of discovery, you figure out, you discover what lights your fire. What are you passionate about? Not what has you chase mattering or feeling good about yourself or dominating other people, but if you already felt fantastic about yourself, if you had total self-love, if everybody gave you a standing ovation every time you walked in the room, what would you want to pursue with your life? What would be important to you? And when you start to ask that question, what you start to seek out, which the book, and there's also a video course you can get to help support it with you, is you'll start to discover what we call authentic or core values, which are those things, the building blocks. It's kind of like the DNA of your personality. It's those things that are super important to you, that you're passionate about, that will have you like run and work and pursue challenges and overcome adversity and create courage. The things that you and I will really generate an immense amount of power around. And it all comes from the internal conversation. So we ask ourselves, what's important to us? What's really important to us if nobody else had an opinion about it? And sometimes that's a challenging, difficult, even emotional conversation to have. But I invite you to ask yourself, dig into the book and ask yourself, what are my authentic values? What do I want to do with my life? And then the other thing you get to ask in that conversation is, what's your gift? Your gift is not winning contests. Your gift is not rank advancing. Your gift is not dominating your company. Your gift is not, buying a big house or a big car. Your gift is some kind of contribution. So what we mean by gift is like when you're dropped in the middle of a group of people, what do you naturally and effortlessly contribute to them? What do they get from you? What do they walk away from you just like it's part of them now? So it might be joy. It might be love. It might be caretaking. It might be fun. It might be leadership. It might be problem solving. It might be parenting. But it's something that comes from within us, and we give it in every encounter we have with every human being, whether we get paid to or not, whether we get recognized or not. That's our gift. We don't have to try to give our gift. It's just a natural gift. And when you combine your natural gift with your authentic values, like what's really important to you, you can start to get a sense of, like, what do I want to do with my life? And so let's say, for example, because, you know, most of you know I'm love network marketing as a wealth building model, but let's say what you want to do with your life is you want to do something that requires more money than you have now, more cash flow, more wealth building. Maybe it requires some financial freedom. So if you can pursue building your network, building your asset income in network marketing for the right spiritual, internal, intrinsic reasons, here's what I can promise you. You'll have 10 times the horsepower of somebody chasing a contest or chasing recognition or pursuing success because they think they should, or pursuing success because they're trying to resolve this conversation that they don't feel good about themselves. You'll have 10 times more horsepower. And like Judy Oiggins, you'll have 10 times the staying power. I mean, how many people enroll 1 or 2 people a month for a year? You know, that's like, you know, 1 out of 100 or something. How many people enroll 1 or 2 people a year for 12 years straight? That's like 1 out of, I don't know, 1 out of 50,000, 1 out of 100,000. How does Judy Oiggins get the energy to keep doing it every day? From that internal spiritual motivation. It's a passion that you're looking for. It's totally authentic. One of my coaches, one of the things that he said to me is that all personal power, and I'm not talking about religious power or spiritual power, what he said was all personal power comes from self-honesty. And of course, when I heard him say that, the way I interpreted it was, well, what he means is, just don't lie to yourself. And I didn't figure out till quite a few years later that what he might have meant was all around authenticity, that most of us are lying to ourselves. We're not honest with ourselves. You want to show everybody that sign, Eddie? My beautiful wife, Kimmy, just held up a sign that said, well, I'll write it for you. I'm... She held that up. I don't know if you can see it. It says, I'm sorry. We have such a great marriage, such a great relationship. She's sorry and she's laughing at me. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, so I don't know. You got the point? Hello, Olav. Thanks for joining. Were you over there in Sweden? We're going to Sweden, aren't we? Or Switzerland? I mean, which one is it? I get them mixed up. We're going over there. Anyway, here's what I challenge you guys to do is, it doesn't matter to me if you read the book or buy the video. You can just get in a conversation, maybe grab somebody that you love talking to and just get in the conversation. Like, what do you want to do with your energy? What do you want to do with your time? What do you want to do beyond mediocrity? What do you want to do beyond being average? And I'm okay with, if you just want to hang out the rest of your life, I actually have no opinion about that at all. I think you should do whatever you want to do. You want to just hang out and write out the clock? I got friends that are doing that. It doesn't matter. It's okay. But if what you bring to the party is ambition, like you bring a conversation to the party of, I want to do something with my life. I want to build something. I want to create something. I want to accomplish something. And maybe you even say, I want to matter. I want to feel good about myself. Then great. Let's find a project. Maybe it's something that you can get out of network marketing. Maybe it's something else. But if you're gonna pursue any kind of success, any kind of project, you got to be motivated. You got to have that internal conversation that says, I can do that. Everybody that has ever signed up in network marketing has at least declared that affirmation. They've said, I can do that. And our job as coaches and leaders is to fuel that conversation. Keep fueling that conversation. Keep developing it. Keep asking them questions that they can say yes to. And then if you want to be like a super artful leader and a master coach, you want to pay attention to when are people getting their motivation from external ego-based forces. It's not that I don't throw all that out with the bathwater. I'm not totally against contests and ranks and all that kind of stuff, but it's limiting and it's manipulative and it doesn't serve the long-term project. What you want to develop is a conversation that comes from, I'm doing this because I love it. I'm doing it because this is who I am. I'm doing this because it's fun. I'm doing this because I'm passionate about it. And you want to target that passion and that vision on not the huge end result. Like what I'm passionate about is being a multimillionaire and traveling around the world. Well, you know what? That's kind of a setup, because if you're not passionate about what you need to do every day to get there, it's not going to work. So you know what I'm passionate about, which is why I think I'm a successful network marketer. Like one of the number one things I'm passionate about. It's a core value. It's super authentic. I don't think I should do it. I don't get recognized for doing it. I don't even know if I make money for doing it. I don't know. I'm just super curious about people. So when I meet people, I want to know a lot about them. I want to know, like, you know, how did they meet their spouse and what do they do for a living and why did they choose that? And you know, we meet a lot of people here on Lanai that are interesting people, and we love asking, like, how did you even find Lanai? It's not hard. It's not easy to find. And what are you doing here? And where do you live? And why do you live there? That's one of my favorite, like, things. Like, somebody lives in, I live in Dayton, Ohio. Why? Like, what is it about? Not that you shouldn't live in Dayton, Ohio. I don't have that opinion. I just want to know why you live there. And, you know, somebody said, you know, I'm an engineer for Exxon. Why? Like, what is it? What's the story that led you to Exxon? And what do you get out of being an engineer? So I'm just naturally curious, which I guess maybe that's one of the reasons I'm a network marketer. But you know what? Here's something else motivation will do. I don't know if Dennis Wainwright is still hanging out in this Zoom, but if you were to meet me 40 years ago and you know, ask, you know, is that guy curious? You know, the answer would be, no, he's not curious about anyone. Not anyone. He's curious maybe about his dog and the chicken plant he works in, but he's not curious about other people. He's not curious about the world. He's not curious about personal development. He's not curious about financial freedom. He's not curious about any of that kind of stuff. You know what motivation will do, folks? It'll actually reinvent you. It'll motivate you to leave your old habits and your old beliefs behind if they don't serve you. And it'll lead to reinvention. And so I'm going to end with reading you something that I wrote that kind of speaks to, you know, this is the kind of work that you do as you keep developing this art. And, you know, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I just wrote this kind of affirmation, I don't know, 2 months ago. So 39 years and 10 months before I got around to writing this kind of an affirmation. So this is a Bliss Life mantra. And maybe somebody, Claire or somebody, will post it in the comments, because all of you can use it, and I have more of them that I've written. So here it is. I'm going to close out with this, and then I'll answer some questions if you have some. I am one of a kind, with unique gifts to share, adventures to have, big dreams to dare. I am fabulous, fun, fearless, and free. I have one life to live, so I choose to be me. I soar to each goal like a bird in flight, warm sun on my face, weightless and light. I am worthy, wonderful, my work feels like play. I attract what I want, I'm on fire each day. I see it, believe it, this new story of mine. I live a bliss life, a life I design.